So what is exam stress and how to deal with it? Firstly, it's important to actually realize what exam stress actually is. Exam stress is actually no different to any other stressful encounter that you'd come across in your life. Stress in general is your body's way of communicating with you that something isn't quite right. In fact, your brain and your nervous system is interpreting some sort of stimulus, i.e. in this case, exams, to be impeding your survival. This is why your body starts producing cortisol and you go into this sort of fight or flight mode. There is scientific backing that suggests that a good balance of anxiety and stress can actually yield better results for you. This is purely because at the end of the day, when you're going through that stress, you're going to react to that and hopefully produce a good outcome from that gets you the results. However, there are some people sitting there probably thinking to themselves that, you know what, I don't actually get exam stress. Well, there's two things. Number one, you're actually very acquainted with the examining process and you've developed really good strategies in terms of how to cope with it, and you're always prepared and you're very confident of your ability, hence why you don't suffer from that level of stress. Alternatively, you're one of those people that the stakes are just high enough. Exams don't mean much to you because the results don't mean so much to you. And this is why you can see from your own performance exactly why you're not getting exam stress. Now, there are some people that tend to suffer a little bit more severely than others when it comes to exam stress. So for today's video, I'm going to go through 3 easy but effective ways in terms of how you can deal with exam anxiety. Notice I'm not saying that you're going to overcome it, because that isn't the purpose of this video. And in fact, my last suggestion will actually enable you to understand how you can use the actual anxiety itself to allow you to get better results. Okay, so our brains are hardwired and extremely intelligent. In fact, we don't actually realize just how intelligent we are. Our minds, as intelligent as they are, our subconscious mind tend to register a lot of information, things that we're not always aware of consciously. So let's just say, and let me just try to illustrate an example here. Imagine you're at a social gathering and you're dressed to impress, and there's 9 people that approach you and they compliment on the way that you look. This one despicable excuse for a human being comes up and actually has the nerve to criticize the way you look. Even though you may downplay and act as though it doesn't bother you, I'm pretty sure at the back of your mind it will be there. And especially this is for the women, if there are any women watching this, you may know this, you may know what I'm talking about. Now, the point I'm trying to make, which relates back to what we're talking about today, is that our negative experiences can have a great impact on the way we deal with the future. And this is just the way we've been hardwired to sort of, maintain our survival. So let's just say, for example, you conducted a driving test and you failed. There are a lot of people that once they fail the first time, they will have to undergo several tests to try and pass that test. And I'm not trying to say that their driving wasn't the reason for this, but I can pretty much guarantee that some of that, or a partial amount of that, will be down to the mentality that they've undertaken to try, from the first initial attempts of trying to pass the test. But when it comes to exam anxiety, if you've got past experiences and you haven't had such good results from the past, then what you need to try and do is you need to try and eliminate that negative thinking and put those demons behind and start fresh, and tell yourself, almost psych yourself up to a point where this event that you're taking is completely independent to what you've experienced in the past. And this way you can reduce all of the negativity, and it won't eat at you every time that you're sitting down to try and work, every time that every time you place yourself in that situation, you'll be completely detached from what took place. That's the main thing that I'm trying to get at. You need to detach yourself from any past negative encounters that you've experienced. So my next tip is that you need to be well prepared. This is quite self-explanatory. So if you're one of those people watching this right now and you're moaning and groaning about anxiety and you're not doing anything about it, then I would actually suggest that you stop watching this video. In fact, what you could do is subscribe to the channel And go back to my video on procrastination and check that out, because quite clearly you've got other issues going on. So I'm not going to go into depth on this one purely because, like I said, this is self-explanatory. But what I will say is that preparation is not down to how fancy your notes are, or how pretty your room looks with all the posters around it, or how presentable your desk finally is the day before the exam. You'd be actually surprised how many students go off on tangents, pretending to study, or even actually studying but not knowing what the content of the exam is going to be. In fact, I get a lot of parents approaching me and saying, Amin, I haven't seen my kid in 3 months. They've been locked away in the room, barely eaten, barely seen any sunshine. And my response to that is, well, clearly they haven't been doing what you think they were doing. My next tip is that you need to practice. Again, very self-explanatory, but you'd be very surprised in terms of how many people actually follow this through. And what I mean by exam practice is not that you sit with your friends and do it together, not that you sit on your bed, listen to music whilst you're doing it. What I actually mean by practice is that you actually sit down, mimicking test conditions. So you time yourself, you do under test conditions, in the format of the actual test, and then if you have access to the mark scheme, you can mark it yourself, or you can even get someone else to mark it for you. If you did this and repeated this a couple of times, I can guarantee you that the exam anxiety that you have will be completely nominal after this. And as I mentioned earlier, in terms of how you can use your exam anxiety to work in your favor, if you did this a few times, not only would you be able to handle the actual exam with a lot more ease, but also you'd be able to sort of reflect upon where you're at the moment and try and improve on that. Believe it or not, I've come across a number of students that are willing to sort of stay in this sort of self-deluded state where they will actually avoid sitting mock exams purely because they want to try and perfect their actual exam, and they don't want to show their weaknesses. They don't want to show you or show themselves exactly what stage they're at. And in fact, what they'll do is they'll keep avoiding doing this because they want to project this sort of aura of invincibility. And this is why when it not only does this only add to the exam anxiety on the actual day, but what you'll also find is that the results also reflect this. Well, I hope that you found some of these tips quite useful and you can now go ahead and implement them within your own study sessions. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment down below. My name is Amin and I will catch up with you another time.